Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone that rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in the gospel abroad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the spirit. This is from Nations Conspire. I like this dude videos, man. He be cooking, even though he be going far left. But, the concept to what he say is pretty much on point because, the scriptures say that the children of this world was wiser than the children of light. So we understand that Esau is going to be prone to certain information and putting certain things together that, the men of the Lord may not have been privy to due to limited resources, right? But it says, warning, another major blackout test runs just occurred, disabling civilians. And I was looking at maybe 2 days ago, I think maybe 3 days ago, that there was a situation that took place in the UK. I think it was like a blackout, not on this scale as to what happened in Spain, but Portugal. But no, was it France or I think it was Portugal? One of them European countries. I think it was Spain and Portugal. But it wasn't, I don't think, to that degree. But nonetheless, they've been experimenting with these outages, man, going back to 2023. Going back to the Davos summit of Switzerland, when basically the elites of the WEF, which is the World Economic Forum, was basically telling people, well, look, man, we're getting ready to have cyber attacks and grid failures and power outages and etc. And they're blaming shit on the sun, and they're blaming protocols and so forth and outages on solar flares, which solar storms, I don't, that's not causing the outages to the grid, man. All right, you have solar storms and you have a particular barrier that protects our atmosphere from the rays of the particular harmful deposits that lies in space, right? But even then, if you pay attention, it's getting a lot hotter, man, all right? Even though it may not be physically as hot outside, the sun is illuminating a lot more because of these chemicals they're spraying in the air. Like I'm looking in the sky right now and it's nothing but haze out there. Though you have the sun in the sky, but it's like a dull haze out there. And that's due to them spraying the chemicals in the air. Okay, instead of just having a clear and sunny and just a vibrant day, he finds a way on how to destroy every fucking thing, man. That's why this man got to be taken out of power in ASAP. But anyway, this is a video. I'm going to play some of it. It's 23 minutes. Doubt if I get through half of it. But also I have a video by Dabu72, which goes into the same thing because they're throwing different scenarios at you to make you think that this is the ordeal. But overall, this is your elites playing with you. They're playing in you people's face, man, all right? Because they're getting ready to reset everything. Hence the great reset. So let's get a precept, Psalm 64, which, we bring this precept out often because it's relevant, right? But it says here, Psalm 64, and I'm going to start at verses 5. It says, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. And who is the they? The they is the elites, okay? The elites of Esau. And they delegate these ordeals down to their lower level luminaries, from your Gates to your Bezos to your Musks to your Trumps to your Buffetts, to name a few. But it says they encourage themselves in an evil matter and they commune of laying snares privately. And they say, who shall see them? Because they're able to push out false narratives, okay, or falsified information to make the people believe that there's something happening in the atmosphere when in fact it's them. Okay, all types of atmospheric disruption is coming from the elites, man. And it's really Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai because he controls both sides. But, overall, we know that the Lord allows the elites to have their hands in particular world affairs because this is their world, according to, the portion that Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai has given them, right? And it says here, they search out iniquities and they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Mind is think. So they sit back, they plan these things out and they plot and they proceed trial and error with their left hand magicians and they magi's, giving them tainted revelations as to what to expect, setting up this global world order. But ultimately, the Most High is getting ready to throw a monkey wrench in the program of these wicked ass elites, man. All right. But it says here, they search out iniquities and they accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But Yahweh shall shoot at them with an arrow. And the arrow, first and foremost, is this truth. Because when you think of an arrow is an instrument of, I won't say an instrument of cruelty, but it can be used as one. But this truth is an instrument of cruelty used on the elites on the left-hand side. Meaning the truth is a instrument of cruelty to these elites, man. Because this truth stops them dead in their tracks. All right? And it says, and certainly they should be wounded, so shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, and all that see them shall flee away. Hence where guys like, what's this dude's name, Nations Conspire, he comes in, he comes and play with that. Because even though, he's not really, making any noise, he has 38,000 subscribers, which is more than shit we got. More than I will ever get, to say the least. But, he has a presence, he has an audience, but as far as like a major player on the scale of exposing Esau, no. Like it Tucker Carlson's and shit like that, which Tucker Carlson is a Freemason. He's part of the global cabal. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna play a little bit of this video and we'll get the rest of the precepts, and that'll be that, because all hell is breaking loose. All hell, judgment will come to this society. Okay, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai will make good on that oath.
Is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. Massive quote-unquote solar storms have caused communication blackouts around the earth, specifically over in Africa and the UK. They are claiming that they got hit with back-to-back solar flares. Now, depending on what your beliefs are, me personally, I do not believe that solar flares are real. You have every right to believe what you want to believe, but of course, a lot of the reports that we get about solar flares and the images that we receive are all from NASA. So you obviously don't just take that with a grain of salt. You should automatically just discredit it and realize that any information you're being fed is usually 10 times out of 10 misinformation. And one of the things that they want out there is this narrative of solar flares. There's multiple narratives in regards to a massive grid shutdown and a massive attack that would destabilize countries, which would shut off all electronics, including cell phones. It's really the ultimate way to perform a great reset. And many people out there haven't been paying attention to that. They think that the great reset already occurred. You're talking about shutting off electricity in all nations. That would literally probably kill 9 out of 10 people if they do that for a full year. All planes in the sky would likely crash. All refrigeration would be shut down, which means we would lose the food supply chain that includes massive warehouses that have food, of course, grocery stores, etc. Clean water would not be able to.
Right, and he's straight up telling you what the plan is. And we've been saying this. We've been saying for a long time that they was going to do something, some major attack that was going to come through and that was going to disrupt life as we know it, from blackouts to grid outages, as the scriptures goes into 3 days of darkness. But also there will be a supernatural darkness that the Most High can allow to hoover over Babylon. Because when you go into the plagues of Egypt, it goes into the 3 days and nights of darkness, when the Lord had put the spirit on those Egyptians to bug out, man, because they were seeing spirits, seeing demons and apparitions, man. And we know that America is a bloody land, which is full of rape, robbery, murder. So there's spirits here, man. And that's when the supernatural comes into play. Like it tells us, the plagues that hit Egypt before is going to hit Egypt again, man. And we're seeing it. Okay.
Access anymore. You wouldn't be able to access money. You wouldn't be able to access any prescription drugs that you might be on. And of course, the SCADA systems would all be shut off. Nuclear facilities would all be shut off. We're talking fires, floods. There would be no access to any help whatsoever. It would really create utter chaos. And there's multiple narratives that they want out there so that when something like this happens, that you think that it's one of the narratives that you're being fed. One of the narratives, of course, is the solar flare, which is what they're pushing here. They've been doing this every single year. They've been putting stories out there about solar flares disabling communication.
Right, it's predictive programming. It's what they call programming you. They're programming you to believe that it's a big boogeyman when in fact it's them. Like allegedly they still don't know what happened with the whole ordeal with Spain, but overall they was telling people we don't know what it was this, it was that, but we know who was behind it, man. All right, it's pretty obvious who was behind that ordeal. All right, so let's go from here to the book of Job 15. I think it's Job 15, if I'm not mistaken. Job 15, and let's go down to verses 34. It says here, for the congregation of the hypocrites should be desolate. And that's talking about the Edomites, man, starting with the elites. It says, and fire should consume the tabernacles of the bribery. It says they conceive mischief and they bring forth vanity, and their belly prepared deceit. Okay, because it's all lies and bullshit at the end of the day. All right, this is the elites conjuring up these particular events, man. And they got the people on edge because the people really believe in some fucking boogeyman sitting in a bunker in Russia disrupting the grid. Now, while we're not ruling out that possibility as into what can happen, because we know that Babylon will go to war with these other nations, and power and reconnaissance and so forth, and particular methods of war and disruptions will be methods of war. But overall, they're always blaming somebody for their mishaps, man. Okay, shit that they're conjuring up.
The other, of course, is a cyber attack. They've been programming you with a lot of predictive programming through movies, including the one that just came out called 0 Day, getting you or trying to get you to think that when a grid shutdown happens, that it's some type of event that's not caused by your own government, that it's either caused by some type of natural occurrence like a solar flare, which they feed down your throat and cram down your throat, or some boogeyman in the middle of a factory in Russia or China shutting off the United States of America's electrical grid. And again, don't forget, a couple of weeks ago, Spain was in total blackout for a few days. They still haven't figured out why Spain was in a total blackout, but the US could be next. And that's clear to me that these are obvious test runs as they're preparing for a massive EMP, which I'll get into later in the video. But even the World Economic Forum this week warning of growing cyber threats to energy infrastructure following the latest blackouts that have been occurring around the earth. But this is the propaganda they're putting on the news. And remember, they put this out there because they're planting seeds in your mind for a future event. And they want you to think that this is why it happened, because they cannot afford to have the people rise up against the current government.
Right, and that's Esau's biggest fear, people rising up against him. So therefore, he's putting the blame on other people, Russia, China, other nations. But anybody that have any type of understanding of how the elites operate, they would know that this is, some inside shit, man.
It's around the earth who are all responsible for doing this to their own people.
Because if they wasn't behind it, how the hell would they know about these things? If they wasn't the ones that was pulling the strings, how would they know that these ordeals were going to come to pass? How did they know that? Because they're the ones that's behind it, as we read in Psalm 64. All right? So this is the book of Exodus 10, and I'm going to start at verses 21. And it says, and Yahweh said unto Moses, stretch out thy hand towards heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. Yeah, man. Okay, so a darkness which can be felt. That's horrifying. And we know that the average bonehead here in Babylon is glued to his phone. They're glued to technology, electronics. They like the conveniences of what they call life. Without that, these people are going to literally lose it. Okay, let's just say we got an urgent message saying, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook were shut down. Bro, you see how people were bugging out when Twitter was shut down. So imagine how much more when these platforms are shut down for good. When they shut down for good. And when there's no symbolism of them coming back up. People are going to go batshit crazy. Okay, when they can't get shit out of the refrigerator, when the food goes bad in the freezer, people are going to lose it, man. Okay, and that's when we're going to see 2nd Ezra 16, 15, and 16 really hop off the pages, man. Okay, because like I mentioned, people, they don't know how to do, these people, they don't live like the Amish. You got the Amish that, that live like they stood in the 1800s. Charm butter, they charm for butter, they pipe milk, milk cows and all that other stuff. They do things from scratch. They live with limited electricity, because they don't want to deal with the conveniences of this society. So Amish people can really survive off the land because they've been bred to do so. But the average person, Keisha, hot girl summer, that type ordeal, she can't survive this shit coming, man. A lot of men can't survive that. Or you outside chicks, y'all can't survive what the hell is getting ready to come. And there's going to be a detriment to you. And it says here, and Moses stretched forth his hand towards heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. All right, 3 days. Give me 1 second. Oh, shit. second, brother Salakia. It says that was a thick darkness in Egypt 3 days, man. Okay? So just imagine if we had a blackout here for 3 days. Just imagine the type of mindset that the people will be in. They're totally panicking. They'll lose their shit because they're used to having, you know, and they're not used to being without. And it says, and saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. And when you go into Wisdom of Solomon 16 and 17, it goes into the detailed account of what happened that night. And it was being plagued with apparitions, monstrous apparitions, spirits, you know, like a haunted house. That's coming back in a big way, especially when all hell break loose and Yahweh Bashim Yahushai decides to open up the fourth dimension and start allowing those spirits to manifest themselves. You people ain't gonna know what the hell to do, man. Okay, it's gonna be worse than that game called The Last of Us. It's gonna be worse than that. Because people out here that are already possessed with spirits and demons and devils, and not to mention the medication that these people are on, people are gonna flip their wig when they don't have access to water, when they don't have access to bread, food, when they don't have access to the microwave, they have access to the stove. These people are gonna go batshit crazy. And it says, and saw not another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. And the elect, we will have light, okay? Because the Lord is going to shield us in that time to be saved from the plagues, man, like it tells us in Psalms, the 91st chapter. Let's pull that. Psalms 91. And I'm going to start at verses 1. It says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High should abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And I will say to the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, and in my power in him I will trust. It says, surely he should deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence, and he should cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust, and his truth should be thy shield and thy buckler. It says, for thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that fly by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. And 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it should not come nigh thee. So that's the time we're coming in, man, to the point that the dead is going to be cast out innumerable. To the point you're going to see people dying here, you're going to see people dead there. Apostles broke it down. They said we're going to have to tiptoe over dead bodies because it's going to be so bad. And then not only that, the systems are going to shut down, meaning your sanitation systems, your city systems, public works, you know, and all the sewer systems. It's going to smell like death out here. And on top of that, the dead bodies rotting in the streets. It's going to be a bad day, man. All right. So, hey, get your minds prepared. All right.
Is Kraken, the easy way to start exploring crypto.
Almost 94 million miles from Earth, a powerful light show on the surface of the sun. The bursts of radiation are the strongest solar flares so far this year, but issues flaring up back on Earth. Shortwave radio blackouts have been reported on 5 different continents. A NOAA forecaster says the flare today occurred as the sun was over the Middle East, adding to the disruptions.
So there's an 11-year solar cycle, and right now we're kind of at the peak of one of those cycles of activity.
Scientists say the geomagnetic storms are caused by massive flares of plasma from the sun, specifically sunspots.
The X-rays that are coming out of those flares are actually striking a layer of our Earth's atmosphere that we bounce radio waves off of. And it's actually deforming that layer and causing a lot of disruption.
And they pay these people to fucking lie, man. You can't believe a pale-faced male. Especially one that got a fucking mullet like that, man. You can't believe these people. They set these people up to lie. Okay? Esau is a damn liar. And you know he is. Where's these people? You know? And it says here,
Smaller flares happen regularly, but when they get strong enough, they can light up the sky in the form of aurora borealis in select corners of the world.
This is actually so sick.
Sometimes outbursts, turning skies pink and green further south than usual, bringing a light show to lucky residents in places like Chicago, Pennsylvania, even as far as Alabama this same time last year. Scientists say the sun reached its solar maximum last year with its largest flare in October, When the Earth gets bombarded by streams of charged particles, the flares can also disrupt cell phone service, GPS, and satellite communications. They can even wipe out power grids. And in space, they can actually put spacecrafts and astronauts at risk. All of it causing a firestorm online.
As we just had a powerful X2.7 solar flare.
Nobody's talking about what these solar flares are really doing to your energy.
As for that major blackout in Spain and Portugal a few weeks ago that grounded planes and disrupted hospital operations, Spain now launching an investigation. But so far, nothing to indicate solar flares are to blame, despite viral speculation. And at the center of all the activity in the last 24 hours, the sunspot known as AR4087, currently not directed at our planet, but rotating towards...
It's funny how they can just fucking CGI some shit or aerial footage some shit and then come up with the whole narrative around what's happening, when this can just be natural dealings of the sun, and they'll just give you some whole concocted story behind it, and you fucking people will eat it up because you that goddamn dumb. That's what they want, man. You know? What is this? Isaiah 25:7. It says, and he would destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people. And these people are completely covered by a veil of sleep and confusion. It says, in a veil that is spread out over the nations. And he will swallow up death and victory. And Yahweh thy power, the Lord Yahweh will wipe away all tears from all faces. And the rebuke of his people shall be taken away from off the earth, of all the earth. For the Lord have spoken it. And we're coming into them times, man, when our captivity is being overturned. This is why Jake is going in other lands, man, being praised over there, because the Lord is turning back our captivity. You see? So it's getting ready to get real turned up out
towards
here.
it.
Lights and
Oh, give me a break. Come on, man.
Alabama and in Florida, right? But what they don't tell the common sheeple out there is that scientists, quote unquote, or should I just call them psychopaths, up in Alaska for the last couple of decades have been using your tax money to actually transmit radio frequencies into the sky to create artificial auroras. And most people out there, when you tell them that they actually can make artificial northern lights, think that you're crazy, but they actually admit to doing it. Causing artificial aurora over Alaska. This has been happening week after week after week. What they do is they play and manipulate the ionosphere. They shoot energy into the atmosphere and they bounce it back onto the earth. They don't want you to know about these things. They don't want you to know that they can create simulations in the sky. They don't want you to know that they're taking such high forms of energy to manipulate the atmosphere that it's causing lots of events to happen on Earth that they want you to think are naturally occurring events. And another narrative that's been out there, which I covered a couple of months ago, actually a couple of years ago, and again, all these videos have been removed from every public platform. They're available on the website, but I talked about the Carrington event. They've been programming people with the Carrington event. You probably know of the Carrington event because they want you to think about it and know about it. So the alt-right media, the conservative media, has been putting reports out there talking about a Carrington event. The event apparently occurred in 1859, or first the most powerful geomagnetic storm ever recorded. It caused massive solar flares that released a surge of electricity, charged gas, and subatomic particles towards the Earth, resulting in severe disruptions to telegraph systems, intense auroras, and even sparking and fires in some telegraph offices. And Tucker Carlson, who we all know is an agent, okay, he's been exposed many times. I've exposed him about a dozen times, even the last couple of weeks, showing him at the Freemason Lodge doing his interview with a UFC fighter, his bracelet that he obviously wears, the Pilgrim Society, which he is a member of course. These guys pretend like they're censored. They leave platforms, go to other platforms. There's no censorship. They're promoted all over the place.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson's a complete insider. All right, Natalie and Clayton, they're all insiders. Glenn Beck, all they ask are insider. Alex Jones, you know that he's definitely an insider. All right, like I remember this guy, Tucker Carlson, came up to the Apostles maybe back in 2011, 2012, 2013, and, you know, they broke down what the UFOs were. So Tucker Carlson, he knows all about the Israelites, but he's an insider, man.
They're still promoted even by the mainstream media. The CNNs of the world, the NBCs of the world will still put clips of Tucker Carlson on their news so that they stay in the public eye because they want to keep them in the public eye. And one of the things Tucker Carlson was pushing, along with government asset Dennis Quaid, who plays one of these conservative actors, one of these ones that always shows up on Fox News, is that they're guaranteeing you of a Carrington event coming in the future. They want you to think that this is going to be a naturally occurring event, but it's not. Here's the programming they put out on Tucker Carlson about a year ago.
There is a 100% probability that our sun generating what they call a GMD, which is a solar storm. It's our Earth magnetic field that we have around the Earth, can fry everything that is electric above the ground, including our entire grid.
And this would happen organically, naturally? That's just what the sun does?
There was they call it a Carrington event, which happened in, I think it was 1859. Basically, we had telegraph lines as far as electricity, and it fried our entire telegraph system. It had to be replaced. And
the entire thing?
The entire thing. Imagine what that would do now. There's a 100% chance of it happening. 100-year event, they call that one. And
I'm not good at math, but
in the
1859,
trillions of dollars, it would take out not only the electricity, but all of our entire infrastructure and our society runs our electricity. We don't know how to live without it. There wouldn't be any water in your tap. You couldn't get gas for your car. Everything that we rely upon would be gone. The food would melt in our refrigerators. And they predict within a year, about 90% of the population would be dead from starvation, disease. It gets back to the Stone Age again.
Well, that's shocking.
Yeah, so
a bit of information.
It really lifts your day, doesn't it?
It does. I'm adding that to the Armageddon file that's growing.
Nobody's on something that might occur, but this is definitely going to occur.
Just what nature might do.
Yeah, this is not what you call an enemy. This is the sun that we rely upon every day, and these solar storms that happen. Everybody's seen, pictures of the sun where the storm is happening, and these flares come out, and they're ejected out into the solar system. I think it was 2014. We barely missed
that
one
dude
by,
Tucker, man,
5.
He's juiced in. He's claiming he's rogue. Dude wearing a whole goddamn monkey suit, bro. Get out of here. You still work for them peoples, my man. Isaiah 24. And I'm gonna start at verses 4. It says, "The earth mourned and faded away. The world languished and faded away, and the haughty people of the earth do languish." Yeah, the haughty people of the earth languish. A situation like this will cause massive panic, massive stir up, massive wars, civil war, violence, man. It'll turn violent, like literally if not overnight, within a few days. If people realize that there's no coming back from this, people gonna crash out, man. You know what I'm saying? Literally, it's gonna be life and death scenario. People coming to pay you a visit. Maybe if they can keep the wool over people's eyes, say, oh, well, just stay tight for 2-3 days. We be cool people and thug it out, But after that week span and shit gets scarce and food starts to go bad, people gonna start going on the prowl. Hey, bro, it's like you was cooking some grits in this motherfucker. What's up? But it says, "The earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore have the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are barren, and few men left," man. So anyway, I'm gonna end it there, giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you will edify to the next lesson. Shalom.